Welcome to week 3 of the South Carolina College Football Preview Show. We're here at the Village Idiot Pizza and Pub again, our sponsor. We're at the 5 Points location. We've also got a location on Forest Drive in the Forest Acres area. David, South Carolina, better off than last week. They're 1-1, coming off of a 33-23 win over an East Carolina team that Steve Spurrier really believes is a good team, and I think they are a good team. I think they'll have a lot of success in their conference, whatever in the world their conference is. I can't keep track anymore.
I think it's the American these days.
There we go. Yeah. South Carolina feeling better about themselves than they did after a devastating loss to Texas A&M. I think the Gamecocks, as much as anything, built some confidence. And this is a team that, for some reason that I can't quite put my finger on, needs confidence. They've talked about it some this week, and they just look like they need confidence. An 18-play, 10-minute and 33-second drive to put a game away is big for the offensive confidence. Yes. Now, you look at the defense. They still need to get there. We'll see if they can get there this week. The problem with that is they'll have to get there against Georgia, a team that has looked so far almost as good as anybody in the country, but maybe Oregon. You saw the Bulldogs 2 weeks ago in person when they played Clemson. Your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you, Josh, Georgia looks pretty good right now, but they have only played one game, so basically they've been taking a week off, kind of resting up. They had a couple of guys with some minor injuries, but they all should be good right now. So while we sit here, Village Idiot Pizza and Pub, about to chow down on the lunch special, and, if you guys want to, you can order online at villageidiotpizza.com, and you can also get that on your mobile app. Let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, You got to start with Todd Gurley. The guy had a school record 293 all-purpose yards against Clemson 2 weeks ago, 198 rushing, and then a 100-yard kickoff return plus one catch out of the backfield. And honestly, he's fully healthy. And the question seems to be, how can a guy that big run that fast? He's just a beast to bring down, And that's going to be mission number 1 for South Carolina. Deke Adams, the defensive line coach, said, "Hey, we know what we got to do. We got to get him on the ground." Of course, it's a lot easier said than done. Now, how do you do that? Does Lorenzo Ward stack 8 in the box and dare Hutson Mason to beat him? Does he bring his roving linebackers to the edges more and try to shut down on how Georgia attacked the edges against Clemson's defense? It's really going to be kind of a hit and miss thing. They'll just have to go with what works. Todd Gurley, outstanding back, but there's also other guys behind him. You have Nick Chubb, you have Sony Michel, and you have Keith Marshall, who has kind of been the forgotten man in this Georgia offense. Looked a little gimpy against Clemson. I think he's still coming off that knee injury from last year, but he will be getting the ball as they try to rest Gurley on what's expected to be a hot and muggy day on Saturday at 3:30. Georgia's defense, they really looked great in the second half against Clemson. They really shut down what Chad Morris was trying to do, and who knows if they can come in here and do that against South Carolina's offense, which, as we saw against East Carolina, can move the ball pretty effectively. They scored on their last 7 possessions. What USC has to do is pretty much what I think they'll have to do all year. Stay on the field, grind clock, run the ball, make sure Georgia's offense, specifically Todd Gurley, stays off the field. That's what they're going to have to do to really, stay in this game and try to match Georgia point for point. Georgia is a little beat up. They will not have Malcolm Mitchell or Justin Scott Wesley available, but they still have those 4 tailbacks. I'd say a good solid quarterback in Hutson Mason, and then a really good receiver in split end Michael Bennett, and another good receiver with Chris Conley, who, if you haven't seen his Star Wars video, go to YouTube right now and check it out. And he's coming off a shoulder injury, but he should be okay. Mark Richt said, "I expect this game to be a little bloody." What do you mean by that? He thinks that it's going to be smash mouth football, old school SEC, both teams running the ball and trying to play defense. We've seen how USC's defense improved last week, but honestly, how could it not improve after that stinker against Texas A&M? We'll see if they can get up to play Georgia and try to shut down Todd Gurley's Heisman campaign before it really gets started. Josh, we've talked about Georgia. Right. So while we sit here and about to have some lunch here, how do you think the Gamecocks are preparing for this game, and what do they have to do to shut down this Georgia attack?
Well, I don't know if you shut down Todd Gurley. I think you've got to understand that Todd Gurley's going to gain some yards, but I think maybe this fits better for what South Carolina can do. I think that there will be fewer moving parts to this offense, allow them to maybe get comfortable, more of a straight-ahead style. Like you mentioned, it can't go worse than it did against Texas A&M. So maybe that the way Georgia plays offense is better for South Carolina. It will come down to tackling. Georgia and Mike Bobo and Mark Richt, after 100 years at Georgia or however long they've been there, are not going to surprise anybody. You know what you're going to get. Now, stopping it is a much different matter. South Carolina is almost in a must-win situation 3 games into the season if they want to keep their SEC East hopes alive. Georgia wins this game. Unlike other years, South Carolina's already got that one conference loss. So all of a sudden you're looking at the Bulldogs having to lose 3 to get you back in the race, plus you got to win out. Just a lot of math in there that doesn't work out well for South Carolina. But I'm not sure Steve Spurrier is thinking about his team as his SEC East contender right this moment. He's talked a lot this week about week to week. Right. We got to get better this week and see how good we can be this week. And then next week, we may try to get a little bit better. And the next week, and let's see where we are when we've played 12 games. And I think that's probably the best plan of attack with this group because they clearly have some deficiencies that they need to correct. They've got 10 games to do it. So that's the good news. You know, if the bad news is they need to do it really fast this week if they're going to compete with the Bulldogs. An early start. You need to play well early. Get some confidence, that confidence that we talked about. The defense needs to make a play early. Get that Williams-Brice crowd going. Offensively, I think you need to get Mike Davis, a guy who plays with a lot of emotion when he's playing his best, a Georgia native, into the game early. Get your crowd behind you. If it doesn't start well, I kind of wonder what the crowd is going to do. I kind of wonder how this team is going to react. This team that Steve Spurrier has said, I've had to coach their emotion more than I'd like to. How do they react if it doesn't start well? The way to not worry about that is to go ahead and start well.
And now it's time for our Village Idiot mailbag. We've taken some questions from you this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Yeah. Got a few questions for you this week at the Village Idiot mailbag. Reach out to us on Facebook and on Twitter. Hank asks, what can we expect from Georgia quarterback Hutson Mason? Hank, it's a real good question. If you look at Hutson Mason's numbers from the Clemson game, they're pretty pedestrian. I think I'm paraphrasing here, but 18 of 24 for 130 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Nothing sexy, but it got the job done, and honestly, they didn't really have to pass considering what their running game was doing. I think Hutson Mason is a very good, solid quarterback. In that realm, sort of like Dylan Thompson, they have enough weapons around Hutson Mason to win this game. So if he doesn't have to do anything, you know, so much the better, but I think he could if asked to do it. In short, it would be, we've talked about what Lorenzo Ward might do for USC's defense. If they do stack 8 in the box, Hank, and dare Hutson Mason to beat them, if he ends up throwing for 305 touchdowns, then USC may just have to throw up their hands and say, you know what, that guy beat us. Who knows what they'll see, but I think Hutson Mason is a good, steady, I don't want to say game manager, a good, steady quarterback that knows what to do to win the game. Slim Shady writes in, well, we see number 33 tote the rock any this weekend. Number 33 being, of course, David Williams. David Williams has been moved up to 3rd on the depth chart over Sean Carson. I think they've kind of realized that Sean Carson is best as a kick return or a slot guy, maybe to sweep the end, that kind of thing. They hoped that they would get David Williams more carries last week. He only ended up getting 1 and then catching 1 pass. So they want to get him out there. If it becomes a case of Mike Davis and Brandon Wilds really carrying the ball a lot, especially early, they'll probably want to rest those guys, get them out of the heat. So I think they're going to make a concerted effort to get David Williams in, because if you're not going to play him this game where you have kind of the surprise element, when are you going to play him? And we'll put you to you for the other 2 questions on the mailbag.
Ben Black wants to know who's the number 2 quarterback at the moment. My answer would be Pharaoh Cooper, honestly. I don't know that we're going to see the number 2 quarterback, Connor Mitch or Perry Orth. I think it probably changes day to day at South Carolina practice, and I don't think it's a question that's going to be important to South Carolina fans this year unless Dylan Thompson gets hurt. Dylan Thompson has not thrown the ball as accurately as some South Carolina fans would like. I know that because they've said it to me over and over this week. But he has not committed the unforgivable Steve Spurrier sin of throwing a bunch of interceptions. As long as he doesn't throw the ball away, doesn't throw the ball to the other guy, he's going to be the quarterback, and you're going to see Pharaoh Cooper in the Wildcat. And you don't need to worry about what Connor Mitch and Perry Orth are doing until next year. York DeVoe, a faithful Go Gamecock member, wants to know about the defensive line. Do they have enough talent to withstand the UGA rush? Sure, I think the answer to that is yes. Will they? You know, that's obviously another question. But I thought the defensive line, after I rewatched the game, played as well as any unit on the defense against East Carolina. They got a lot of push. They're rotating guys, which will be key. And we saw that Gurley and Georgia just wore Clemson down. But they were done at the end of that game, kind of like East Carolina's defense was done at the end of the South Carolina-East Carolina game. Deke Adams will rotate a lot. Kelsey Griffin, Phillip Dukes, backup guys. You're going to see those guys in there. Like Phillip Dukes made a great play on a screen pass against East Carolina. I think that yes, they have got the talent. It's a matter of going out there when the rubber meets the road and doing it.
Now it's time for our guest picker segment. We'd like to welcome again in Brian Glenn, owner of Village Idiot Pizza Pub. Brian, thanks
Hello.
for joining us again. How you doing this week?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Not a problem. Well, your prediction came true last week. South Carolina won, beat East Carolina, kind of got their feet back under them. So we ask you, we've talked about Georgia, we've talked about South Carolina. You've been around all week. What do you think is going to happen on Saturday at Williams-Brice Stadium?
Well, I think that the South Carolina defense is still trying to find their identity, and I think that Georgia's running attack is very good. I don't want to say that Georgia's going to win the game, and I'm a grown-up, so I don't have to do what I don't want to do, so I'm going to say Carolina 21-20.
All right. Well, hey, that would fall right in with Georgia's scoring difficulties in Williams-Brice over the past 2 decades. So Brian's going with the Gamecocks. Josh, who do you got?
This game is fascinating to me for a lot of reasons. Number one, there's been a 10.5-point swing in the line in Vegas since the summer when they released this game at South Carolina as a 4.5-point favorite. There are people out there right now as we speak sitting on a ticket with Georgia plus 4.5 points. They got to be feeling good about that. Steve Spurrier, however, if you want another Vegas line, 5-0-1 in his last 6 as a home underdog. And you know Steve Spurrier bedevils the dogs. That's the good news for South Carolina fans. The rest of it, as Brian mentioned, is not such good news. I can't find a reason to say South Carolina will win this game. Doesn't mean South Carolina won't win this game, but all the arrows are pointing to the Bulldogs right now. I don't think they'll score a lot in here. They never do. But I'll take Georgia 24-23. David, you're the tiebreaker.
That's a good one. Well, Josh and Brian, I can't think of a real good reason why South Carolina will win this game. You look at how the defense has been, and you look at what I saw the past 2 weeks and when Georgia played Clemson and how Todd Gurley was running all up and down the field. And, there's so many reasons why I think, Georgia should win this game. I mean, they just seem to have all the advantages right now, which is exactly why I'm going to go with South Carolina to win this game. I just think that here at Williams-Brice, they're going to find an answer. They're going to find some way to get one last score. And the one stat that I'm basing it on, when we've already talked about, Georgia has yet to score a lot of points here in the past 20 years. But the other one, South Carolina playing Georgia in Columbia when both teams are ranked, South Carolina is 4-0. I think they make it 5-0 this weekend. We're going with the Gamecocks 31, Georgia 28.
Thanks for watching again this week, guys. Kickoff is 3:30 Saturday on CBS. Join us at GoGamecocks.com. Around 1:30, we'll give you all the game day details, and stick with us the rest of the week as we get you to kickoff.